Greetings, greetings, greetings. Testing. Happy Sunday. All right, so we're going to do our regular testing. Happy Sunday. Happy new moon. Sending you all the greetings. I just want to start off in giving thanks for the land that I am on here in Western Canada. And I give thanks for those who came before me. I give thanks and gratitude, excuse me, for those who are continuing to do the work, to stand in their truth, to spread the truth, to spread love, to spread peace. I give thanks for those who've been planting the knowledge, planting seeds of inspiration, planting seeds of wisdom, planting seeds of answers, planting seeds of strategic planning on how to shift consciousness, on how to shift this earth. So we give thanks. Greetings, greetings. All right, greetings. Okay, I'm trying to read the comments and speak at the same time. We know that we're in a time where our consciousness, our thoughts, our feelings, our deeds can shift anything and everything. And if we don't know that, then we could start looking at some of the ancient Kemetic texts. We can look at some of the texts in Ifa. We can even look at quantum physics. But today, I am going to share a process that I do in terms of how I embody some of the texts that I've read, some of the lessons that I've learned, continue to learn, and some of the teachings that I've gotten from my ancestors, from my elders, from my guides, things like that. Yeah. So welcome. I had some thoughts. I had to write it down because sometimes I'll lose them. And what I notice as I find my thoughts that I wrote down, what I realize is that some of the stuff that I've come up with, to say like, oh my gosh, this is a brand new idea. It is not new. It is not new. Nothing is new underneath the sun. It is ancient knowledge that I just remembered or I just activated. Yeah. So some of the information and thoughts that I'll be sharing today is not new. All right, so we're going to jump right into it. I'm just going to start off with a breath. Just gentle breathing. And in the breath, I want us to feel the wisdom in our body. There's learning, understanding, application, and embodiment of information. The more we can breathe and get into our bodies, is the more we could recognize the embodiment of the information. If the information is peace, forgiveness, courage, wisdom, intuition, truth, power, balance, love, whatever it is, we know what that information is by the way we feel. And we're going to talk about that a little later. Greetings. So, why did this topic come up? I myself go through different lessons and learnings throughout my life. But this week was all about learning, understanding, application, and embodiment of information. And I was tested this week. I was tested. My patience was tested. And I took a breath instead of even responding. Reacting is not so much a thing depending on the situation, but even responding, because I know that there's action and inaction. Yeah, there's action and inaction. So not all the time I got to say something or I got to do something to know that something's being done, because everything's energy and everything's vibrating. Thoughts are vibrations, feelings are vibrations. So because of this knowing, I was able to take a breath, embody compassion, and radiate compassion. And then the person flipped and said, oh, that was my bad. I should have, not jumped the gun. So I said, what did I just do? What was that all about? Because that was like millisecond. It wasn't like I spazzed out or I reacted or responded. And then after I said, oh my gosh, I should have taken a breath. It was real time. I took a breath in that moment. Then I was having another conversation with a beloved friend who also does a lot of healing work about how are we showing up. There's a lot of different gurus now. I know shade. I'm not here to shade anybody, but there are a lot of gurus. And let me speak for myself, as I listen to a few people or podcasts or whatever it is that I'm taking in, I realize that there's the learning is there, the understanding is there. They've implemented some of the information, and I'll get in more detail what I'm meaning by this, but the embodiment wasn't there. So if they were talking about forgiveness, there's the learning of forgiveness. There was the understanding. I could see that they applied it because I could see where they were talking about their lives, and this is where I applied forgiveness. But there's still that irritability and that anger. So the embodiment of forgiveness or peace wasn't present. And so I was talking to a good friend about this, about how vital it is to embody. It's not about, and excuse my language, it's not about mental masturbation, right? Just getting off of information, getting off of feeling. Feeling is important, but it's the embodiment, the doing. And so how can we embody some of this work? And that's where the healing is. And it is hard to embody some of these principles and learning because it's not sexy. The healing is in the application and the crossover to embodiment. That crossover is the rising of consciousness, where you actually heal and change the neurotransmitters in your brain. You shift the atoms, the electrons, neutrons, protons. You actually shift at atomic level, right? So when we embody, the embodiment becomes a vibration within self, within your aura, within your consciousness, within your spirit, within your soul. So now you're no longer the same person. So your thinking is going to be different. Your feeling is going to be different. And your acting is going to be different. It has to be, because you're not the same. There was a rewiring and a psychic spiritual upgrade, if that makes sense. But the construction of that upgrade is the learning and the understanding and the finishing of the structure. So the door handles, the trimmings, things like that, and the painting. The finishing is the application. But now when you embody the lessons learned, at that point, you're living in your home, you're using the home, things like that. It's not under construction. It's done. It's complete. Yeah. So I'm going to give some personal examples because that's how I learn, and that's how I teach, and that's how I share. And if you have any questions, you could put it in the chat. And this is like a live conversation that I like to have at times. Sometimes we have a guest and it's live with that guest. But if you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can let me know. So for me, the learning is like getting out of victim mentality. So the learning of the lesson is saying, you know what? I have the choice of what I think and feel. Me, Hathor-Ra, have gone through various challenges, various forms of abuse and childhood traumas and things like that. And in my 20s, it was showing up heavy. Definitely in my teens, but in my 20s, it was showing up in intimate relationships. It was showing up in work, even in my 30s at times, right? I'm in my 40s now, so I just leave it at that. But it was showing up, and it was like post trauma and all this messiness. And the first learning was learning that I'm not a victim and I'm not broken. So in that learning, I had to make a dedication to myself in the way I started to think that I am not a victim and I am not broken. So that is the lowest level of consciousness, to get out of that victim mindset. Carolyn Mize gave a beautiful analogy that when we heal, it's not sexy, and when we heal, it doesn't look the same, and for other people. And when we heal, other people are going to not see what we see. Example. So there's a building, a beautiful building, and there's a penthouse with pool table, 20 floors, and or let's say 40 floors, and the penthouse is so beautiful and it has a view that goes, let's say, 60 miles deep. Yeah. So I walk in, and people on the first floor, hi, Hathor-Ra, I haven't seen you in a long time. How's it going? I'm like, oh, I'm great. I'm going upstairs to look at the view of the runway. And they're like, a runway? There's no runway around here. I lived here 20 years in this building and there ain't no runway. And I said, yeah, I live on the 20th floor or the 30th floor and there's a runway. And I'm like, nah, she's crazy. There ain't no runway. And I said, okay, but I live here for 20 years, just like them, but I could see it on the 20th or the 30th floor. They can't see it on the first floor. Then my friend comes in. Let's say my friend is Joe. Joe comes in and they said, hey, Joe, long time no see. They're like, hey, what are you up to? And Joe's like, oh, I'm going to watch the mountains and just the scenery of the water, the natural spring water falling through the mountains. And the people on the front of the building on the ground level says, there ain't no mountains here. I lived here 25 years and there isn't any mountains. What are you talking about? I haven't seen any mountains. You're crazy. This guy is going, delusional or something like that. And he's like, okay, I live on the 40th floor on the penthouse level. And I'm telling you, I see it all the time, especially during spring, around spring and summer. It's beautiful waterfalls just flowing down. You should try to make it up sometime. They're like, I ain't coming up there. It's too scary. I'm scared of heights. Then you have a third person that comes in and they said, hey, let's say the name is Natalie. And Natalie comes in, hey guys, hey Natalie, I haven't seen you in a long time. What are you up to today? Oh, I'm just going to go and watch the leaves as they blossom because it's spring in the forest behind the building. And the guy's like, I lived here 25 years. And the other guy says, I live here 20 years. I didn't see anything. And so on and so forth. And Natalie lives on the 15th floor. She's like, I lived here 25 years and I've always seen it blossom. So what is the difference between the people on the first floor, the 15th floor, me on the 20th or 25th floor, and Joe on the penthouse? The difference is the level of consciousness. And depending on your level of consciousness, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you perceive and receive life is different. And so no one's better than the other. It's just one has a higher vibration, the hertz of their thinking, the energy of their thinking is broader, it's more positive, it's more optimistic, it's more grounded, it's more in truth and love and light. Yeah. So it's not that one is better than the other. It's just one has done the work to look at life differently. So same building, people living in the building, the same place, but four different views. And how did they come up to those different views is the way they learn. They take that learning into an understanding, a comprehension, and they take that understanding, that comprehension, they start to apply and practice. And when they apply and practice, then they start to embody it, just like riding a bike. So how does this relate to healing? This is very, very vital in healing, because for me, my healing was suicide, spiritual suicide. Okay, I was dying spiritually. I was doing things that were just killing my spirit. So for me, it was life and death of my spirit. And we'll get into that story another day, right? It was literally life and death. At least it felt like it. And so I was scared. Being scared, I said, okay, I got to shift. And so the learning had to be a lesson that I had to say, I am coming out of this victim mentality. I'm coming out of, whoa, poor me. I am 20 something years old. Whatever happened to me doesn't have to repeat in my mind and my body still. Whatever people said to me and did to me, I don't have to repeat the story. Whatever I did that I couldn't forgive myself for, I don't have to repeat the story. Because the truth is, the event of the trauma is the event of the trauma. What makes it feel continual are the thoughts and the feelings. So once we can shift and learn, the first step is the learning and getting out of that consciousness of victim. That is one of the first steps that supported me. And I'm going to read that. That's beautiful. And once we get out of that victim, and now we're learning, we're like, okay, I'm thinking differently. I am taking accountability and I'm taking responsibility because I have the ability to respond. So these things happen to me, but it doesn't have to continue. So that's lessons learned, learning. Then there's the learning, and there's the understanding. So the understanding comes with maturity. So my little girl would try to make adult decisions. And so I had to get out of that and said, you know what? Things can happen by my doing. The learning and understanding. So now I'm understanding that I have the choice and things can happen by me. And if I continue to think this way, it's by me. If I continue to keep myself in this unhealthy relationship, in this unhealthy dynamic, in this unhealthy thought process, this unhealthy, right now I'm struggling, not delete. I'm not struggling. Right now, I'm going through a different level of learning in my physical health. So sometimes I like popcorn and kettle chips, and I like cheese pizza sometimes, even if I make it from home. I'm not supposed to eat pizza, and I'm not supposed to eat those things. Those things are my kryptonite. I gave up white sugar and white flour. I don't have that in my house. Sometimes I bake, for my nieces and nephew, but I personally don't have bread and those. So I give up a lot of things. So I think I'm at the application stage, and now I'm embodying the consciousness in terms of this lesson, the learning and understanding and application. I am learning, understanding, applying. So now I'm applying that my destiny, my calling, my purpose has a physical body that needs to vibrate a certain way so it can hold space and hold energy to do my calling. So now I'm applying these things and practicing. And so there will be a full embodiment where I don't have to try to be disciplined with eating. It's just a byproduct of who I am. I don't have to try to pass certain aisles in the grocery store. It's just going to be an embodiment. It's just who I am. I don't have to try to not snack on an emotional day. I don't have to try to avoid snacking, I should say, on emotional day. As a byproduct, I won't. I'll have my fruits, I'll have my tea, I'll have my water, whatever it is that I need. It's just going to be a part of my life because there's an embodiment. So what I'm speaking of is something that I live uh, on a daily basis. But right now, I really worked on the last 20 years on mental, emotional, spiritual. Now I'm at the physical part. So back to what I was saying, in the application is knowing that you could make a lifestyle. Yes. My lifestyle has to match my purpose and my destiny. And that there's a little bit of a gap there. So I'm still learning at times. There's 6-7 months I'm good. Then all of a sudden it's Christmas time or summer time. And then I'm not vegetarian anymore. So I know that I am learning, or I'm applying, the learning. Let me correct myself. I'm applying the lessons and the understanding, and I'm applying it to my daily life to make it a lifestyle. So now it's just the way I live, right? And so let me backtrack to we did the learning, the understanding. Understanding is that life happens by you. You make that choice. You're not a victim anymore, right? So that's the learning. So now you're understanding. Say, yo, I'm in my 20s now, and I'm still acting like that little girl who was in the traumatic event or in that abusive home. Or I said, whoa. I got to back up here. I got to back up. And now I'm a mother. And now I have a partner. And I'm creating toxic, events because I didn't fix myself. No. I need to, it has to happen by me. So whether someone apologizes to me, whether someone comes and own their injuries that they've done, or own the abuse, or own the ratchetness, or whether they do that or not, that is not my business. My business is I need to learn and understand that it's me. It's all about me. So that's the learning, understanding. So understanding is by you. Learning, understanding, application. Application is the practice, baby. That's the daily routine. So whether I like to call it a spiritual hygiene, and having accountability, for sure. Taking accountability, because now you have the ability to respond to your life. So I need to start applying, because if I don't do it, who's going to do it? I have a child. I'm in a relationship. I'm in a union. And now I'm bringing my stuff into their life. I'm bringing my stuff to people at work. I'm bringing my stuff to people in my business. I was bringing my stuff, because I've been in business since, I don't know, high school. I've been selling and buying goods from New York, from Manhattan, coming back and selling all this. So I realized that I was a hothead, and I couldn't do that from high school into my 20s. So I realized that, okay, I need to learn differently, learn these lessons that I'm learning, because I am the common denominator now of these broken relationships or whatever is happening. So I had to learn, then understand that I take accountability, and it's me. It's happening by me. And now the learning, understanding, application, it's the practice. I start to practice breathing. I started to practice tapping. There's different ways to tap, right? I started to practice walking barefoot. I started to practice water is my number one thing. I start to practice, I have an altar, a sacred space where I sit down. No music. I start to have a nightly routine. I turn off the Wi-Fi. There's no Wi-Fi on my phone when I sleep. I have an alarm. It goes off at 8:55, wind down for bed, one at 9. And it's kind of annoying because I'm in class once a week and class ends at 9 p.m. and I forgot to turn it off. The tapping is beautiful, right? And so I had to learn breath work. I had to take a rites of passage. I did a rites of passage. I did different initiations. I did what I had to do. and start to practice this in my daily life, in the breathing. Certain oils, certain essential oils. I haven't worn nails in, I think, 2 years now, 2 or 3 years. I'll put on press-on nails. I'm not going to lie, when I want to switch it up. But I had to start to minimize the chemicals that are on my body and in my body. Right? This is what I had to do. So there was inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. So the application was a part of my daily routine, my spiritual hygiene, my mental wellness hygiene, now my physical hygiene. Now I don't eat until a certain time of the day, and I don't eat past a certain time of the day. Unless if I'm with family, I'm very gentle with myself. I learned to be gentle. I had a part of the application was to change my thoughts. I had to now think differently. I couldn't think with the trauma brain. I had to actually think differently. So then I had to start reading books. I have this book. I put it down for a rest, but this is a really good book too. But I have various books covered up behind here. I had to start reading and studying. I had to change my environment, because if let's say I was an alcoholic. I was never, but let's say I was, or living with a substance dependency, and I'm shifting my life. I need to be around people who are definitely disciplined and consistent and not about that life. So if you want to be a veterinarian, a doctor, a healer, your core group should be vibrating and thinking similarly, even if they're on their own journey, right? I don't need to be with someone who practices African spiritual system and African sacred science and African spirituality. I could be with someone who's a Buddhist. I could be someone who's a Christian. I could be someone who is Jewish, Orthodox Jew. I could be with someone, as long as they're living authentic in their purpose, with love and light and balance and forgiveness and truth. Some of these core principles, we could hang. We can hang, right? So the application was a daily thing. And this is the part where even with me, I'm learning, because I said to myself, I am changing my whole body composition. I am changing my body, and my body has to match my spiritual body. My spiritual body has a vision of how my physical body needs to look, and it not match up. And not match up is not connected. Right? And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with where I am today. And I love my body. I love my skin. I love my lips. I love my toes. I have really beautiful, tight skin. I'm very thick, and I have a lot of muscle. I love it. I love my body. And I know my body served me well. And I also know my body, back to the story, is at the consciousness of the 20th floor. I'm trying to get to the 40th floor where I can see the mountains and this water spring. So a part of that shifting in my consciousness, my body composition has to change. So what I'm speaking about today, I'm living it in this moment. And it happened this week because I was saying to, one of my friends, instead of, saying, oh, there's people out here and they're not living the liberty. A lot of people are talking about spirituality and cosmic realms and quantum physics and quantum jumping. But when we look at the lifestyle, the fruits of your labor, you shall know them. When you look at their fruits, the way they think, the way they feel, the way they deal with life, it's not matching up. It's not matching up. If you squeeze an orange, you're not going to get lemonade. You're going to get orange juice. If you squeeze an apple, you're not going to get grape juice. You're going to get apple juice. So that of which you are inside of your heart, that is who you are. So for me, it was very important to bring some of these principles that I practice, that I teach, that was taught to me in a very basic way. We can go deep metaphysics, but that's not this platform. This platform is just wellness conversation, because wellness is your birthright. It is your birthright to be well. It is your birthright to go through the labor pain of healing. It is your birthright to go through the labor gain for your healing. It is your birthright to go through the labor triumph and winnings and victory for your healing. It is your birthright. So that is the purpose of this show. Yeah. So we won't get into too deep of metaphysics, but everything is energy. So whether we talk about it or whether we feel it, it's all meta, beyond physics, beyond physical. Everything we do, thoughts are beyond physical. Yeah. So back to learning, understanding, application. So application is exactly what to do. It's apply, it's action. It's a daily, inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. So the community of self-discovery and self. Yes, absolutely. It's one of the hacks for me was to find at least one person that kind of thought like me in a way, but in their own authentic way. And once I was on that mission, all of a sudden I met this person and this person, and now I'm in groups. And now, you know what the hack is? I go to a new job for the last 15 years. I've started a new job or a new project, and I always have that one person that meditates and has higher consciousness. So in the application, you change the vibe, you change your magnetism. So now you start to draw in people, place, circumstances, and events and experiences that matches what you're doing, because there's in the action, you radiate, you pulsate momentum, almost like a Wi-Fi signal. So when you start to apply, which is action, little by little, you actually pulsate and you're sending messages to the universe that, okay, I am disciplined in my eating. I am disciplined in the way that I curse. I am sending out compassionate love. I am sending out forgiveness. I am switching the way I respond. I am breathing in the moment and calming my nervous system. Whatever it is that you are doing in the application, you are radiating that out into the universe. So the universe, by law, will only return that of which you are. Yeah. So learning, understanding, application is the doing. Learning, understanding, application, embodiment. So after a while, practicing, it will become second nature. And this is where this topic came up this week. I was having a conversation with a couple of people. So this happened about 3 or 4 times this week. I'm like, I got to talk about this, the embodiment. So I was talking to a family member or a family friend, and this family member knows certain dynamics that I lived through. And this family friend also understands dynamic of other people in my family friend circle who are not healthy, who are not well, who continue to perpetuate violence and abuse and all sorts of unpleasant experiences, which is fine. It's their right. It's your right to do the work, and it's your right not to do the work. And this family member or family friend is at their level of consciousness. And in the conversation, I said, you make your bed, you lie in it, type of thing. And that was the conversation. So we can't pathologize why this, why that. We just have to say, if you weren't kind to people and now you're looking for kindness and you're not getting it back, it's probably because you weren't kind to people. And the person I was talking to started to make excuse for the abusive behavior and started to minimize the experience of people who received the toxic behavior and abuse. And this person did this to me in another conversation. So I was having thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting I'm getting a little bit triggered here. And I took a breath. I actually took maybe 3 or 4 breaths, and I slowed down my nervous system, and I slowed down my thoughts, and I had compassion for the person. And I said, if this person was at a different level of consciousness, like those floors, like the story I just told, they would be able to see that they are a part of the problem by holding secrets, by not keeping the abuser or the person perpetuating violence and perpetuating unhealthy behaviors, not holding them accountable. They're a part of the problem, not the solution. And I was listening to a podcast that you have cycle breakers and you have cycle keepers. And that was a cycle keeper in that situation. In other situation, that person is a cycle breaker. And so a part of the embodiment is to see beyond the physical, see beyond the situation. The situation is someone is having derogatory slurs, racial slurs, sexist slurs. They're being abusive. They're being violent. Yeah. And I am not saying put up with violence. So that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you'll be able to stand in your power, stand in your truth, stand in your God self, stand in your authentic self, stand firm and grounded, and become a self-master through embodiment. So the application is the practice, yeah? But the embodiment takes on a whole new consciousness. So in that situation that I said, I was able to have compassion for the person, compassion for the abuser, and see their view, why they end up there, right? They cope with substances, and through the substance, they become violent, yeah? So I was able to have that level of understanding and compassion for the person that's perpetuating unhealthy behaviors. I was able to have it to the person I was talking to. But most importantly in embodiment is I was able to hold space for myself. Now, that is not easy. I'm telling you, it took years, if not hours, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of meditation, physical pain, went through physical pain, of ceremony, of rituals, of silence, of circles, of fire ceremony, plant ceremony, you name it. There's a lot of applying, okay? There's a lot of doing. And in that doing and in that application of the lessons learned, I started to form different spiritual hygiene routines and techniques. And that supported me with the embodiment of peace, love, compassion, wisdom, knowledge. There's still a whole gap of my learning. Because once right, like I said earlier, I'm on the physical plane, shifting my physical body. I'm creating a whole new physical body. So now I'm like in grade 4. So I'm still in elementary school in terms of shifting my body. So I may have the university knowledge, but I haven't applied it yet. There's a learning and understanding of the universal knowledge that they teach in university about my body and what I need to do, and fasting and drinking water and all these things. So I that is fine, but it's not real knowledge until it's embodied. It's just a mental thing that I know. Okay, you know. But are you in the wisdom of that knowing? And in the wisdom in that knowing comes the embodiment piece. And that is a beautiful place to be in. Is learning the fruits, and let me back up. The beautiful place to be in is embodiment. Why? Because you can witness similar situations, maybe with different people or the same people, especially when it comes to family and family functions and family secrets and all of that stuff. Yeah. Or an ex partner who was, not healthy, right? When you can now go into these spaces or see these people around, and they're going to be the same, right? They're going to be the same, maybe slightly different, maybe slightly mature, but you are not the same. You are not the same. And when you are in the embodiment stage, you can see yourself respond and feel differently. And in that observation, even if that person is still perpetuating their triggers or whatever, in that observation of you saying, oh my gosh, I'm actually feeling differently and I'm responding differently, there's this little space in between that's called joy. That's called self-mastery. And this is not easy. There's still spaces in my life where I'm still in the application stage. There's stages in my life where I'm still at the learning stage. There's stages in my life where I'm at the embodiment stage. So this is not a blanket framework for every area of your life in terms of if you're in the learning stage in one area, that doesn't mean you're in the learning stage in other areas. Like I said, I'm sculpting a new body. So I'm at the understanding stage of that, right? I learned some things. I learned, okay, I don't want to feel sluggish anymore. Now I'm shifting. Yeah. So maybe, sometimes I'm in application. I go back and forth because sometimes I'm at the gym and sometimes I'm not. But what I'm saying is a part of the learning, understanding, application, and embodiment. In the embodiment, that's where your fruits are, the fruits of your labor, the fruits of self-forgiveness, the fruits of courage, the fruits of breath work, the fruits of taking these courses, the fruits of spending money on your wellness, the fruits of taking yourself away from a toxic relationship or a toxic marriage or a toxic family member, the fruits of moving across the world, the fruits of changing the way you dress. The fruits of your labor happens in embodiment. It doesn't happen in the thinking. That's mental masturbation. We just get off in the thinking and the feeling. Oh my gosh, this is so sexy. This is so good. I feel so. And no diss to people who are at that stage, because I'm at that stage in other places. So I'm not disrespecting. I'm just calling the spade a spade. Yeah. So this week, I not only had to practice these 4 levels of consciousness or shifting consciousness, but I was able to see the fruits of my labor. And I've had 3 or 4 other conversations besides my lived experience. I said, this is the topic this week. Because every week I have an idea and spirit says, nah. Get out of your head and into your heart. Okay, that's not what we're doing. We're going to talk about this right here. And I'm doing my best not to try to out people, so I'm not going to name names or dynamics of the situation. And who cares about the story? It's about the lesson. The story is gossipy. We're not into the gossip. We're into the lessons learned. Yeah. So in conclusion, working on embodiment, even if you're not there in embodiment right today, right now, working on embodiment is, I would offer, working towards embodiment should be the goal. So if your goal is healing family trauma, childhood abuse, childhood trauma, or even things that you may have lived with, right? It could be self-abuse. It could be addictions. It could be abortion, right? I've had clients that work through plethora of different experiences. whatever it is, and you're working into the embodiment of healing from that situation or situations, you know that you are there by the fruits. How are you showing up? And showing up differently, responding differently, thinking and feeling differently. Those are the fruits of your labor. Yeah. It's not easy. That's why people don't heal. That learning, understanding, application is kind of like doing, but at applications where you're going to be tested. That's where you're going to be tested. The universe says, oh, you're radiating love. You're doing all these actions of love, of peace, of meditation, of silence, of groundedness, of forgiveness, of releasing, of crying. You're releasing these fibroids. You're releasing this cyst. You're releasing this headache. You're releasing this hair loss. You're releasing this stress. You're releasing this mental health issue. You're releasing this eczema, whatever it is that you're releasing. That is a result of compounded stress and unforgiveness and trauma. The universe is going to say, are you sure? So yeah, you're releasing, you're doing all this, but are you sure? So you will be tested. And you know that your embodiment, you're in the embodiment stage when you've quote unquote passed the test, when you are no longer responding in the same way that you used to. So when the pressure lick you, meaning when the pressure comes to you, what comes out is love. What comes out is peace. What comes out is all the things that you've been practicing and applying. Just like if you squeeze an orange, you're not going to get lemonade, you're going to get orange. So if you squeeze a person doing the work, the fruit is in their labor. What's going to happen in the fruit of them is peace, compassion, and love, and patience and care. And even if it's not immediately, but you get there momentarily, you're still, it's still a muscle. It might be weak, but it's still a muscle you practice. So we're going to practice gentleness. We're going to practice care. We're going to practice love. We're going to practice compassion. And whatever stage you are at right now, I self-disclose, I'm at the probably application stage of my physical health. And I'll keep you tuned when I'm at the embodiment stage of sculpting a whole new body. I'll probably post some before and after pictures, maybe. I don't do that stuff, but maybe I'll do something to show that not only I practice what I preach, but it works. So I want to thank you. Learning, understanding, application, and embodiment. Namaste. Create a wonderful day. Happy new moon. This is a beautiful way to shift into a new moon, is to embody your intentions. Act as though, fake it till you make it. Whatever your intention is for this new moon, fake it till you make it. Because the faking actually starts to override what your brain is and your cells are before. So you're not really faking it. You're just giving it new instructions, new codes to download into your beingness. Yeah. So fake it till you make it. Namaste. Thank you for those who are listening. I see the comments, and I want to thank you. I don't know all the names. I'm sorry. I apologize. But I want to thank you. I know Paula because I see Paula, and I see Tanisha because it says Tanisha. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sending you love and light, learning, understanding, application, and embodiment. Try those 4 things for your new moon intentions. Yeah. Take care. Have a wonderful day.